My grandpa was diagnosed with cancer and told he may have a year left before expiration. His words. He said I was to expect big things once he was gone. Never quite sure of what he meant, I humoured him in his last days. After his passing, the intense feeling of solitude was hard to describe. Grandpa was essentially the only family I had, other than a few pockets of extended family that held no genuine substance. I'd never met my mother, though I knew she was out there somewhere. I wasn't what she wanted, and as far as I know, my existence was a burden. The world is cruel, and you only know you are one of the lucky ones after it sinks its teeth into you. After the funeral, I pushed through all the other activities that accompany the death of someone you love, and arrived close to the finish line. The dark feeling of loss subsided, and I was greeted by a grey reality as I packed away his things. I removed all the picture frames from the walls and paused to look at the last photo. It was just the two of us on Christmas Day. I was only about 10 when it had been taken. Behind it was an envelope stuck to the wall with masking tape. Curious, but also amused at Grandpa's lack of subtlety, I opened the envelope and found a letter addressed to me.
Hi, Henry. I always hoped to make my mark in this world. I wanted to be remembered as someone who did the remarkable. As you know, I never really achieved this dream. But don't worry, my time was not wasted. Raising you gave my life the meaning I craved for the most part. At least, that's what my humble side kept trying to tell me. However, I told you there were big things planned, and I meant it. This isn't just the ramblings of a dead man. I have big plans for the both of us. I've organized some like a treasure hunt for you. I hope you find meaning in what I've put together. I know I have. Do you remember where you built that fort your first year of high school? The one with the couch you got from Curbside Collection? Start there. Love, Grandpa.
Calling it a fort was a stretch. It was a busted up couch and a few milk crates in the bush. I couldn't help but smile. I loved that man. Wasting no time, I jumped in my car and made my way back to the park I'd played in as a child. The fort itself was strategically placed far from the playgrounds and deeper into the bushland. Besides a few bush turkeys, it was completely secluded. By the time I was roughly near the location of the fort, it had become dark, and I had to use my phone's light to see in front of me. After successfully dodging a few spider webs, I could see something in the distance stuck to a tree. It was a flyer someone had laminated and nailed to the tree. There was a missing Maltese dog named Scruffy. Though the ink was faded, I could still make out what was on it. A speech bubble was drawn on the flyer. They never found me, woof woof. Turning the flyer over, I found he'd written,
Hairy, furry, or fluffy. Hold on to what you love so it doesn't end up like Scruffy.
A holiday photo was attached. It was of the two of us camping on the river. Check with the reception was written above our heads in the photo. This was the last trip we'd taken before I hit puberty and thought hanging out with my grandpa was lame. The photo brought me to tears. Now that he was gone, I'd give anything to have that time back. I had never owned, nor did I know of a Scruffy. Regardless, the message was sweet and full of his bad humor. Most importantly, it pushed me onto my next clue and enforced a new kind of determination. I remembered the name of the camping spot, and thankfully that was enough to find out where it was. As a kid, it felt like a distant world that took hours of driving to get to. As an adult, it was about half an hour away. I decided to push on through the night and continue the hunt. When I arrived at the campground, I showed the receptionist the photo, and she disappeared to the back of the office, returning with a bag. She handed it to me with a smile and said congratulations. I opened it to find a pair of blue baby shoes with a small note and key.
The life of an innocent is a precious and wonderful thing. Innocence is easily stained or taken from you. Remember to nurture it for all it's worth. When it's gone, there's no coming back. The end is drawing near. Check P.O. Box 32.
The P.O. box was in the town we had lived in before moving so I could start school in a nicer area. I looked up from the note to see the receptionist trying to peer at it. We have been waiting for a while. We were all just so damn curious. A treasure hunt, how fun, she beamed. After some small talk and hazy descriptions of possible landmarks, I found the general area in which the photo may have been taken. I found the spot and revisited my memories of him. Grandpa would always take me on vacation when he got stressed out. It would take a day or two before he would regain his calm composure. I always looked forward to these days because they meant no bedtimes, ice cream for breakfast, and I could sleep in for as long as I liked. This had been a beautiful act for him to put in place. After leaving the campsite, it took a few hours of driving before I arrived at the P.O. box. Inside was a large manila folder with a stack of papers on top of it. Flipping through the pages, I realized it was a contract. He was signing a property over to me. Inside the manila folder was another set of keys, a $100 bill, and a note that read,
Everything to those without it, nothing to those who have it. Precious to beggars and merchants alike. How many of these bills would it take for your hunger to suffice? What about 1,000 or 1,000,000? Is it really worth the blood of your children? Check where the monsters are hiding.
This treasure hunt had lasted through the weekend. I decided to take off work and drive down to the property. It had a long driveway and the yard had become overgrown. Not sure of what to expect, I slowly creaked open the door and looked inside. It was cleaner than I expected it to be. A thin layer of dust covered the house. There wasn't much furniture, just a two-seater and an old TV. I tried flipping a switch and hoped light might make the place less creepy, but the power had been cut. I knew exactly where I needed to look and made my way through the empty kitchen and into the only room with a bed. I checked the closet first, as Grandpa always had. There was nothing but a few coat hangers. I checked under the bed next and found a hammer and a UV light. I turned it on and was confronted with a translucent green line. I followed it out of the room and into the hallway, leading me into the opposite bedroom. My eyes followed the line as it moved up the wall and to a large X. I glanced at the hammer and back to the wall. By putting two and two together, I understood what Grandpa wanted me to do. At first, I lightly swung the hammer into the wall. A small dent appeared, and I swung again. By the third swing, I put all my force into it and broke through the wall. The hole was now big enough to look through, and I peered into it, discovering something covered in plastic. Reaching in to grab it, I heard the rattle of something underneath. I pulled what felt like a book out of the wall and ripped open the plastic. It was a journal. It looked weathered but still intact. At first, I couldn't completely understand what I was reading. When I finished the first page, I dropped the book and let out a cry.
8th of the 2nd, 1997. Gemma Turnbull. Prostitute wearing black crop top and denim jeans. Let me into her house while her children slept. Only cost $100. All 3 bodies left lying face down in the living room. I used a knife. 23rd of the 5th, 2001. Elaine Fisher. Husband was away from home. Front door was left unlocked. Used a knife. 1.5 bodies left in kitchen. 12th of the 8th, 2005. Stacey Morrison. Looking for missing dog in park. Wearing pink shirt, grey jumper, and black tights. Strangled with leash. Body left face down in bushland approximately 1 kilometer from playgrounds.
There were 13 in total written in the book, all as detailed as the 3 I had described. The final page was a letter written to me.
These are my memories, and I have shown symbols of what was most precious when I came across them. There's no tangible evidence for some, as I couldn't take all the bodies. But you were with me. You can place me there for the police. My plan was to come clean in my later years, but life had other plans. I can't be asked to sit in a cell on my deathbed. I trust you to do the right thing and bring closure to these families. Going to the media first would be appreciated. Give them the photo we used at my funeral for articles. That's a nice picture. It is my hope the journey has taught you to treasure the right things and protect them. You never really know who you're dealing with.
The majority of the dates in the book were times we had gone on vacation. I went back to the hole and shined the light from my phone down into it. Underneath the journal was a pile of bones. I stumbled back and gagged. I touched the book that lay atop them. No amount of soap that day made me feel clean. I've held on to all of this for 6 months now. I'm conflicted as to what I should do. Closure for the families means giving my grandpa everything he wanted. I've read these notes 1,000 times over and over and still feel lost. All I know is once I've made a decision, it will last a lifetime.